Before you watch this video, I have to warn you that it doesn't work if I don't use profanity. So, if you're not comfortable with that, please don't watch. I was in the island of Crete. I'd been out in a bar with a buddy and had been hitting it off with one of the bartenders. We'd been flirting back and forth over the course of the night. I'd had a couple of drinks. My buddy had decided to call it a night because we had an early bus trip, but I felt like things were going fairly well with this girl. Continued to chat, but then the bar closed and she had to finish up inside. So I say quasi good night and I head out to the harbor. Now this was an absolutely gorgeous harbor. It had an old stone lighthouse that was lit at night, and so I figured what better spot to wait for her and sober up than sitting there watching the water, dangling my legs over the side. So I'm sitting there hanging out, and then I hear a moped come up. And as this moped comes up, there's two guys on it. And they come up and they come right to me, and at this point everything's basically abandoned and empty. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm thinking, oh crap, I'm about to get mugged. They come up and they're like, hey, where are you from? Yeah, from the United States. And they're like, oh, what's your name? And they extend their hand, they shake hands. So I want to be polite, and I'm still hoping I can diffuse it before it turns into a nasty situation. And so I go to shake the guy's hand, and he starts shaking my hand, and he keeps shaking my hand, and he keeps making really intense eye contact. Now, keeping in mind these two guys are still sitting on this moped together, and then he looks me right in the eye and he says, "You want some weed?" I'm like, no, I'm good. That's not my cup of tea. He's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, you want a party? I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm just waiting for someone and, calling it a night. He's like, no, well, what about some Coke? He's like, no, that's, honestly, but I'm all right. He's like, can I suck your dick? So at that point, I'm like, huh? He's like, can I suck your dick? I'm like, no, I'm good. He's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, dude. It looks like you already got your buddy here on the moped. I'm set. I'm actually, yeah, I'm waiting for someone. And at this point, I'm still thinking, all right, am I gonna get mugged and assaulted at this point, or well, just this is not the direction I saw this conversation going in. So he's still shaking my hand, and I'm like, all right, honestly, I'm good. I'm gonna call it a night, but thanks for the offer, and you guys get home safe. And so he's like, that's a pity. And then, good night. Lets me go, and then they speed off. I give up on waiting for this girl, and I go home and I meet my buddy. The next morning we catch a bus, and we take the bus down to the southern island. And apparently I must have been exuding some sort of strange vibe, because the town is mostly deserted. We've walked around, explored, but we've got another hour or two to wait for the bus, and we're having lunch. And so we're sitting down on the end of this dock, and the water is crystal clear. It's the Mediterranean, or the Aegean, it's absolutely gorgeous. And so my buddy and I, we're sitting there, eating oranges, hanging out, snacking, and this really old timer, he comes kind of slowly walking up. Barely has any teeth. Even if we'd spoken Greek, I don't think we would have been able to understand him. And he starts talking to the two of us. And so, you don't necessarily have to speak a language to communicate. So we chat back and forth, and so as we're talking, we kind of pieced together that he used to be a fisherman, we think, and that he had injured his knee, and then that he had wasn't able to fish anymore, and now he just he went about his business. And then he pauses, gets this kind of strange look, looks at my buddy and I, has this big toothless grin, and he smiles at us both, and he looks and he's like, so now we're both sitting there trying to figure out what he's talking about, what's going on. And I'm thinking in my head, this can really probably only mean one thing, especially with a big toothless grin and a... So, and at that point, I don't know, I fell into one of my get out of jail free cards. And that's, whenever I'm traveling, I can usually, if I need to get out of a situation, I can just play the dumb American. So at that point, I pause, and I look at him, pretend I completely misunderstand, and that I think he's asking me a question about going somewhere. I shrug, and I'm like, oh, no, we're American. So he nods his head a little bit, smiles, slowly hobbles back down the dock, goes back to his chair that overlooks the harbor, and sits down and relaxes. And that was one of the more peculiar 24 hours I've had while traveling. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it made you laugh, made you chuckle, made you grimace, and perhaps inspired you to travel. I always say I travel for the misadventures as much as the adventures. Please subscribe, leave a comment, it would be great. Your feedback means the world to me. And definitely, as always, check out virtualwayfarer.com for more in-depth stories about my travels.